so at some point we just kind of had to decide, well, I guess we're just making stuff that we enjoy making, not worrying so much about like, oh, how are we going to go viral again?
Yeah, exactly. And so then I came to Josh because there were some podcasts that I liked that were successful on YouTube that I related with the guys who were making it. And I was like, oh, I like this podcast, not necessarily because of what they're saying, but because of their perceptions of like, they kind of see the world like I see it. And I liked watching that. I felt seen. And I hadn't really seen anybody who was, I don't think that these guys were like in youth group or anything, but just like, we just kind of generally have the same kind of perceptions and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I came to Josh and I was like, what if we did, because we were trying to figure out, like, we both just kind of were like, we need to do something different.
I think that day was the day that we were shooting it was a sketch about the Federal Reserve or something. I don't remember. We were shooting a sketch about a White House press conference. We were doing something random and weird that we had never done before. We were just trying so many different things.
And so I told Josh, I was like, what if we did a podcast? Like just me and you sitting down talking, but the draw of it is it's two guys who grew up in youth group and we just have our perceptions that we cannot change because we grew up during that time, like 2005 to 2010 or the 2000s. And that's a unique perspective that I think a lot of people, not necessarily just making jokes about it, but they will just find that they can find themselves in how we are perceiving conspiracy theories or like these different kinds of things. Yeah. And maybe they can find comfort in that like, hey, they're, and it's not necessarily about the jokes. It's about it's
about finding a place that makes you feel at home. Like, okay, these guys, I feel like if I met these guys, they wouldn't hate me. And you watch a lot of stuff on YouTube and you're like, boy, I enjoy this show. I enjoy this video, but if they knew me, they wouldn't like me.
Yeah, definitely.
And I probably wouldn't like them either. Yeah. And that's very similar. That's very similar to what Messy Mondays was. It was a show, and what it is, we still do Messy Mondays, but it's a show about finding the humor in a shared experience.
Yeah. And so as the world really shifts more, and I think this was just intuitively what I was thinking, as the world shifts more into humor, everything is funny, nothing is serious. Like I still
shorter humor. Yeah.
It was like I don't want to do that. Like I like jokes. I make too many jokes in real life. I do. I love making jokes though.
Real jokester.
But at some point, it's like and I've tweeted recently, like if you take yourself, and I'm wondering if I take this back, but I do and I don't at the same time. But if you're worried that you are taking yourself too seriously, you 100% are taking yourself way too seriously. But at the same time, people aren't taking themselves seriously enough. Mm-hmm. It's like this weird time we've talked about on the podcast. People take themselves way too seriously that they want to fight over literally everything. But then they don't take themselves seriously like at all, and then they make fun of everything they do. They make fun of everything that everybody does.
Yeah.
There's no balance. And so I think like with it's like there's too much comedy.
Yeah.
And the comedy's not even funny anymore. I'm just kind of getting tired of it.
Right.
I wish people were a little bit more serious in life.
Yeah.
And you make jokes, whatever, but like when everybody's initial is just like, how can I make this into a joke so that people watch me, so I gain followers. Right. It's not good.
Well, it's more stressful too because now that content has gotten shorter and shorter, it feels more desperate. Like, okay, I got 10 seconds to tell you a joke now.
Yeah.
So and I think that was part of the stress too for us was like, it was like this pressure of, well, you need to get on Instagram. You need to be doing like shorts and reels and stuff. And neither of us had any desire to try to figure all that out. And it was like, well, does that mean we're just old now or that we're done? But it was like, no, we still like making videos.
Yeah.
So Jordan came to me and wanted to do a podcast. And I remember I was hearing you out, but I didn't want to do it at all. It made me nervous thinking about doing a podcast every week. because I've done a lot of podcasts over the years, and I was like, I don't think I want to do a podcast again. But you kept at it, and you kept explaining it to me, and you won me over. You really did. By the time you left, I went from like to no, that I think I'm actually excited about this, and I started thinking about it. And I was like, and then we could like have clips of the show that we could also release. And I was thinking about all the different possibilities and how fun it could be. And when you mentioned, the thing that was cool about it was you mentioned we could have segments to the show. Yeah. Like it wouldn't all just be like this free form talking, which it would be free form talking, but it would be like, okay, now we're going to do this segment. Now we're going to do this segment. So if you ever kind of weren't excited or interested in the one thing we're talking about, well, within 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to be talking about something else.
Yeah.
And that kind of plays a little bit, into the current like
clips kind of
attention,
smaller
economy or whatever. But it's like finding a way to do something we want to do in a way that works for the way that people consume content now.
And so we're kind of been trying to figure out that format of the show. We've always kept that spirit of segments and stuff, but we have been trying to figure out which segments work best or what people respond to the most, and what we're personally interested in. So naturally, it goes to conspiracy theory. It goes to deep thoughts. But yeah, I mean, it's been good. I feel like it's been going well. Josh is getting very good at doing thumbnails for the Clips channel, figuring that out. But I mean, we both enjoy doing the show, and I think that it's good for us because just personally, I think because it's the one time as life gets busier that we can actually just sit down and we can just intentionally talk about our thoughts and what we're doing. It's like we when we film, it's like with Messy Mondays and stuff. It's down to such a science. Like we were just able to just come and just knock that out in 2 seconds. I mean, very, very fast. So then it's like, okay, well, I guess, I got stuff I need to do at home now. So I guess I'm gonna go. Like,
a lot of times this is the one time of the week we really get to.
Yeah,
I called you twice. You did 2 days in a row this week, though.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. But no, I've been thinking about that. It is nice. It's fun. You come over and we talk a little bit, and then we just sit down and we just start recording. I remember growing up, Mom would always watch Regis and Kathy Lee or Regis and Kelly, and I remember Regis Philbin's thing was always, I don't want to talk to you until the show starts, because then it's like we're actually having our first conversation of the day. And I was like, I get that now. And so it's cool. And speaking of like TV shows and stuff, I think part of the reason that the podcast has been so fun for me is that it feels like, it kind of feels like creating a late night show with different like skits and segments and stuff. So it's just it can kind of, we can kind of make it flexible to whatever is going on that week.
That's true, and it's not like we were always so set on doing the same show every single week. So I think now with this, it's like it's kind of nice that, well, do we have a conspiracy theory this week? Do we have this? Well, no, we didn't. Okay, so then we'll just throw something else in. It's more flexible, which we didn't do, but in the past, which is what made our channel so successful, was that we were literally so committed to doing the same thing every single week, but at the same time, it's like times are different now,
Right. Like, is it better to keep doing what you're doing, or is it better if you can tell things are kind of declining to try something else
and try and build that up?
Yeah. And I've heard, going back to what you were saying about the point of the show being that we want you to, maybe we didn't state this outright, but you sold it to me. Like, I just want to make a show that makes people feel like they're not the only one. That was basically how you said it.
Yeah.
And I get messages from people sometimes, or emails from people saying that. They're like, you guys just sound like we would have gotten along growing up. Like, we always, whatever the deep thought of the conspiracy theory is, me and my husband talk about it after you guys are done. And we debate whether we think that one is true or not. Just, people who grew up with our experiences and just the way that we grew up, there's a lot of people out there that probably feel like they're a little weird. And so, who knows how many of those people are actually out there?
Yeah.
But for the people that does resonate with, it's cool that they can hopefully watch our show and just feel immediately at home, like, oh, this is my podcast.
Yeah,
This is my new show. This is my new thing.
Yeah.
So
now it's just kind of like the future, trying to, I guess, figure out how to.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the future of the podcast is?
I think that we're trying to figure out how to. If we could just figure out how to get 10,000 views, that's always my benchmark with anything. I always feel like I'm on the right track. It's like, okay, something I'm doing is getting 10,000 views a week.
Right.
Or in the first 13 days, if it gets 10,000 views, then it's like, okay, this can. So we're still trying to figure out. We do some topics where you can reach that 10,000 mark.
Yeah.
But we're still trying to figure out how to consistently do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it like the thumbnail situation? Is it like,
it feels so random because sometimes we'll do topics that are like in the news and it'll do well, and then other times it's like those don't do well at all. But it seems like for the most part, when we do titles, it's more alluding to like, okay, we're going to share our thoughts about something, or it's going to be more like personal, then that seems to do well. And Kelly has told me, she's like, I don't even like to click on clickbaity things anymore. I just want to know that what I'm going to watch feels honest.
Yeah, honesty, I think, is the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but then at the same time, you don't want every title to seem melodramatic.
Right.
Then it's like, well, then they're clickbaiting me with the melodramatic. It's like, well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it's
tough. I really don't like the whole having to. I don't like titles and thumbnails.
I completely agree.
You know, it's like we'll make an episode and we're like, I feel really good. That was a really funny one. That was a really enjoyable one. And then it's like, all right, but we got to think of a thumbnail. I mean, it's the same problem that we always have with Messy Mondays. It's like, this is a really good episode, but how do you title it in a way that people are even going to give it a chance? Like, there's just so many videos out there now, you know.
Yeah,
it's hard to. You know, it's hard to get people's attention, and then it's also like, I'd rather people just go visit with their family, go be outside, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so like, why am I just trying to why am I trying to do all these YouTube tricks to get more people to watch?